Dynamic performance. Sophisticated British style. MG Pilot Smart Speed Assist. The new standard in performance, style and safety. With so many impressive inclusions, this is value you've never seen before. The all-new MG HS, the SUV you've never seen before.
Welcome to Gibbo Goes One-on-One, driven by MG. My guest is one of the most talented big men in Australia. Grew up in Townsville, went to the Australian Institute of Sports / Basketball Centre of Excellence, went to college, played with the Townsville Crocs, Adelaide 36ers, has some time with the junior Australian team, and is now a new signing with the Brisbane Bullets. Harry Froling, welcome to the podcast.
Cheers for having me, mate. I've been chomping at the bit to get on the show with you. It took long enough to get me on.
Look, I like to save my special guests. Like, let the podcast build a bit and then throw the big guys in there later on.
Well, you're running out of people to get on, huh?
A little bit like that. Nah, I appreciate you joining, mate. I want to start with your family. Now, quite a rich family when it comes to basketball in Australia, the NBL, WNBL. Do you remember much about growing up? Did you ever get to see your dad and mum play, or had they retired when you were kind of old enough to remember?
No, they sort of. I don't really remember Dad playing. I would have been a baby maybe for 1 year of it, but I think he sort of retired like 88, 89 when the Suns switched over to the Crocs. And then I obviously just grew up around it. Dad was an assistant coach actually with Andre and Stacks up in, or Stacks was head coach. Dad was assistant up there, and it was sort of just, we grew up around the NBL just because Dad was purely an assistant coach for 6-7 years, so that was a pretty cool childhood, and being around basketball, around the Mike Kellys, the Rob Roses, all those guys through their sort of primes in their careers. So
I'm going to get to those guys with the Crocs later. I want to talk about your mum. Now, reading up on, she might be one of the best Frolings to come out of all the lot of you to this day. Now, I think she's a 3-time championship winner as a player in the WNBL, a 1-time championship winner as a member, as a manager, team manager. In the history of the WNBL, she's the only person to play, manage, coach, referee, and mother WNBL champions.
Yeah, I know, it's pretty unbelievable. And she obviously has some injuries in her career, but she was always on those teams, and it's pretty special. Just the stuff she's done, and she's so quiet and humble about it. Like no one really knows about it, so it's good to always have people recognize that and say that for her, because we wouldn't be where we are without her. As much as Dad is outspoken and everyone knows about him as a player and coach, Mum's right up there, and she's a great basketball coach too.
Well, it must have been pretty special. She was awarded the life member of the WNBL, I think, this year. How was that as a family for her to be acknowledged in that way, to be a life member of the WNBL? And like you said, for her to finally get that recognition of everything she's done and still continues to do in the sport.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And that was a special thing for our family. I think whenever you can become a life member of anything, it's a big deal. A lot of the people that do that and get those accomplishments, people that, the managers of teams and the people that really put in the hard yards and do all the dirty work. And Mum's not outspoken about it, and she got it and she deserves it. And we're all happy for her. But as I said, she's probably put it away in a cabinet and won't speak on it again. So it's always good to pump it up a little bit and talk about her, and we'll do the talking for her. So
I'm assuming around the dinner table there's a lot of conversations around basketball. But they went to the AAS. Your mum and dad, they met at the AAS. A lot of you have been through there as well. Like, is that cool to talk about, to know that, when you go and you see all the pictures on the walls? I'm not sure if they had their pictures on there from back in the day or not, but to go to the AAS and know that your mum and dad have been there and kind of following their pathways with your sisters and brother as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we're probably the only family that's had 6 immediate family members through. I don't know how many families or would have even got close to that, So to have that and mum and dad meeting there, obviously, if it wasn't for the AS, I wouldn't be floating around. So I'm pretty happy that existed back in the day. And I used to always go in and make fun of Dad and Mum's photos up on the walls. So it's good. I don't know if they still do that tradition or not, but it's pretty cool to just have everyone go through there. And it's what the AIS is like it's an unbelievable experience. It's one you look back on when you leave and you wish you could have taken advantage of more. And just living with your mates at such a young age and all being around the Aussie team boys and all that sort of stuff. It's just like such an unbelievable thing. And I wouldn't change that experience for the world. So.
No question. I've said this a bunch of times with a bunch of guests. The AIS not just teaches you basketball. You go from probably training back at your hometown once a day to 3 days, going to school and back, but also the life lessons, learn how to cook, how to clean for yourself, wash your clothes, writing resumes and public speaking, all these other things I think really helped myself, but all my other guests that have been there as well. The life lessons that teach you is something that I think people take for granted a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like literally everything, what you eat, where you're at, being at practice on time, handling your schoolwork. It sort of prepares you for college and then the real world, professional, if you're juggling uni and sport. Uni, the guys that go on and get a job, So the connections you make there, the careers you get from that, my sister's, I think she's got one more exam and she's a full-time physio. So she was working closely with the AIS physios, so all that sort of stuff, which are the best in the world. So you look at stuff like that and just the connections you make and the life experience, it's just second to none. There's nothing like it anywhere in the world, really.
I want to talk about your college experience, and I'll get to that a little bit later. You went to SMU, and I think both your sisters, did both of those go? So it seems to be a bit of a trend with the Froling family to follow each other. So you all went to the AIS, and you and your sisters went to SMU. What was that like? Were you there together at the same time, or was it?
Well, Keely had already left. She did her knee, and she had a lot of trouble with them sort of forcing her back too early, and it was pretty serious. And she said, "Nah, I'm done with this," and left. And Alicia was there for a year, so I went to SMU. Jay Duncan, good friend and good coach, he recruited me. He's an Aussie. You probably know him. He recruited me, and I went there to play under Larry Brown. Larry Brown left. And then I just wasn't enjoying basketball or life, and it wasn't for me. I knew inside it wasn't for me. And I probably should have just packed up shop and come back to Australia at that point. But I figured it might not be college, just not for me. It might have just been SMU. So I had to transfer it out to Marquette. And then obviously that didn't work out. And instead of doing the same thing, I just said, nah, come back home and loving life and enjoying basketball. So the experience of college I still wouldn't change it. I learned a lot. I grew a lot as a person and handled myself out there, and it was a good experience, and it was just a good thing to do.
I was going to ask about that. Now, obviously, experience for different people is obviously different. It works for some, it doesn't work for others. It's probably working for your sister, who you said still over there and close to becoming a physio. For yourself, it didn't. You thought you were going to go play under one of the better coaches, Larry Brown. I think he quit. That obviously didn't work out. I think Tom Wilson might have been there at the same time. Maybe.
Yeah, Tommy Wilson was there as well. Yeah.
So obviously you can choose two ways. You can go to college. You can try to stay in the NBL. For young kids coming through, what would your advice be? Would it be, what would it be for young kids weighing up which is a better option for them?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is go where you're going to play. So SMU, I was sort of behind. There's 4 of our starting 5 are in the NBA right now. Marquette, we had 2 point guards who are great players, and I love the dudes, but they're both averaging 25 points a game. In college, you're only scoring 60, 65 points a game. There's not a lot else going around for everyone else. So I think just go where you want it and go where you know you're going to play, because that's the biggest thing we learned from college is it's all sales pitch. They're like used car salesmen. They get you with everything, the pretty campuses, the pretty that. But then you look at a guy like Cam Bairstow who goes to New Mexico. Yeah, it's not the biggest school in the world, but played his ass off, and now look at him. Played in the NBA, played for the Boomers, all that sort of stuff. So that's my advice, whether that's the college or NBL. If you get a chance to play in the NBL, and I think if I could go back, I probably would have made the jump to the NBL a bit earlier. But in saying that, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. Just go where you want it and go where you think you got the best opportunity to play and develop and get better as a person on and off the court. So if that's NBL, do that. If that's college, do that. If it's something else, do it.
And like you said, still learned a lot, even though you didn't play. The whole experience of playing wasn't there, but learning a lot probably grew you up a bit as well, going through all those changes, changing schools and all that stuff as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's definitely a good learning experience, and I learned a lot from it.
Tell me what it was like growing up with a house full of athletes as siblings. Obviously, your brother Sam, and I'll get to him playing against him later. Your sister, obviously, Alicia's at college. Keely's now a 2-time champ in the WNBL. I know you support her and support the league. You must be pretty excited, one, that there's now going to be some sport to be able to watch on TV with the WNBL starting up, but supporting her and the WNBL is something I think you're pretty passionate about.
Yeah, for sure. So Alicia's actually done with college. She finished, I think, 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago. So she's actually signed with Bendigo. and she was signed with them last year, but she's had wrist surgery, so they didn't really manage her at college properly, and she had a wrist injury, and then they had her doing bear crawls, so her wrist was pretty shot up, and now she's finally healthy, and I think she's about to start. I think she's just flown down to Melbourne or something like that to start practice with that. So I'm not sure why they wanted to hub them in there, but on the WNBL, like pretty obviously having sisters at play and women's sport, like backing it and supporting it, and making sure my sisters feel good about like their brothers have their back and we support them in what they do, and they're making a career off basketball, and they're both smart, both got degrees, and Keely's about to be a full-time physio, which had a free education paid for, and just Keely being two-time champion, we hear a bit of chirp from her and all that, but she can't take me in one-on-one, but it's just good to have everyone playing at a high level, and then getting to watch those girls on TV. And I'm not sure what the TV deal is this year, but hopefully they can tee something up and have a lot of games over a short period. It'll be good.
I understand that. I'm not sure when this was, but your two sisters may have tricked you into riding down a hill on your bike with no brakes and may have caused quite an accident. They like to play funny buggers at times.
Yeah, that was actually right before I had like under 12 classics, I think. So the hill we actually live on now. Back before it was developed, there was this massive hill, like probably 40-meter hill, steep, and my sisters are like, "We'll race you down, bet you can't beat you." And obviously, I was like being young and wanted to prove myself. I didn't use any brakes. Went the whole way down, hit like we're at dog-legged at the end on gravel, on like dirt, flew off the bike and slid probably 10, 15 meters. And you should have seen Dad's face. Dad was just in shock. I had scrapes all up my side, up my whole knee. And then because I sat in the car, we drove down to Brisbane for state classics, state champs. And I sat in the car for 16 hours straight, hardly stopping. So the scab actually fused. We drove out the next day. The scab actually fused, like straight, healed, like stuck. So then as soon as I hop out of the car, it's like ripping open again. It was not pretty. I still had a good tournament though, but it was, that was not one of my finer moments in life.
It must be cool. Like obviously you guys have all kind of been spread out as siblings, like playing all over the world, kind of obviously your sister in college and whatever, Keely in Canberra and you wherever. I think pretty sure at the start of this off season or before COVID, you're all kind of back home and working out and exercising together. To have the kind of crew back, I'm sure your parents would love that as well, just everyone back in the household, which I'm sure probably doesn't happen too often with everyone spread out.
Yeah, towards the end we were getting a bit sick of each other and cooped up, so everyone, I know the grocery bill went up, and we started having to pay room and board for the food bill, and it was just good. Like, I haven't been around Sam that much since he went to college, and then Keely and Alicia also, like, we're all pretty close and keep in touch, but just to actually be at home and working out and like see how much Sam's developed and get to play one-on-one, and which I got to touch on from what he said last time on that later on. Play Sam in one-on-one and just work out with the girls and get to work out with Dad and all that stuff. It was just a good sort of refresher, especially after, like, obviously everyone saw what happened in Adelaide the second year, and it was just sort of good for me to get out and freshen up and be around family and all that sort of good stuff. So I think it was sort of the perfect time for blessing in disguise, COVID happening, and getting that opportunity. So
yeah, I love that. Tell me about playing for the Crocs. So you grew up in Townsville, born and bred up in Townsville. Obviously would have been a Crocs fan, loving the NBL. Your dad was obviously a part of it, but being a part of the Crocs at such a young age, you mentioned some of those guys before, Mike Kelly, Rob Rose. I know you were pretty close with his kids, and I understand you caused a bit of ruckus with them, but just being around the Crocs and at such a young age, and then being able to step in and play. I think you played 10 games when Luke Shenchi got injured. Just being a part of that at such a young age in your hometown, that must have been kind of cool to be around.
Yeah, no, it was pretty special. So love my hometown, love Townsville, and getting out there and representing, and obviously being around them at such a young age, like, since you're born, pretty much. I was in the Crocs team photos when I was a baby. They're all hanging up on the wall and stuff like that. So just that sort of stuff. And then growing up around, the Mike Kellys, the Rob Roses, and then you see Mike around, and it's just sort of like, it's just crazy how far we've all come. And then getting to actually play for that Crocs with big thanks to Sean Dennis for that, bringing me in. And I was a young kid. I left the AIS a little bit early to go back and fill in for Shench. So I signed as a DP, but I was the 10th man or whatever it was. So because I was still going to college, but that experience was just unbelievable. Like getting to play at home, like family, and the Swamp was rocking back in the day. Like
It
it
was.
started to struggle a little bit at the end, and the way they ran it, and which is really disappointing for the people of Townsville. But I think one day if we can get that get a team in there and get it run right and get some good funding behind it and get some people when the NBL grows even more than it already has, I think the Townsville should definitely be a team that gets a gig or gets at least a look in, because I know they sort of messed it up towards the end, but if you look back in the 2000s, if we can get it like that, now it'll be a hectic place to play and get those reptile rumbles going again. So
That was a lot of
it's
fun.
just
That was a lot of
the,
fun traveling to town. In there, like the crowd was awesome. They were on top of you, like staying at the casino. Like everyone says, the buffet there was one of the best road meals you could have.
yeah.
Do you remember learning off anyone back then? Was there anyone, like, obviously there was a bunch of older guys? I know PC, you've had a fair bit to do with Pete, but was there anyone you kind
Yeah.
of big guy like you kind of watch and modeled or kind of learn off a lot at that young age?
Shench was pretty good for me. Big Shench, me and him are really close to this day, and we used to always really talk and hang out, and then obviously PC as well. So just being around PC. Vandy helped me out a lot when I was up in Townsville with the Crocs. He was sort of in a coaching role, and I think he was sort of at the end of his career right about that time, like more a coaching role. And it was just sort of a collective, and we were all pretty young. Like I looked back on that Crocs team, and I remember when we beat you guys with that turnover and Nick K dunk or whatever it was on the buzzer, and I was just thinking about that team.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I was just thinking back on that team, and I was like, looking at the roster, it was like Mitch Norton, Nick Kay, Clint Steindl, me,
Miko, I think.
Corey Maynard, Mirko, yeah, Leon Henry. You just look at those guys; they're all key focal points in teams now in the NBL, and we're all pretty young. But Mitch Young, we're all pretty young. But if that group had stayed together, I think there could have been a pretty good squad down the line. And it was just, I remember Mirko. That was the bloopers after that buzzer beater with the grabbing the pom poms and spinning them around, and it was just a great time up in Townsville. And then those guys to play around, and yeah, I cherish that. If the Crocs never come back and I never get a chance to go home, I'll cherish playing for them, and hopefully one day I have enough money to get them back in the league.
I'm glad you brought that up. I had nightmares for about a week, 2 weeks after that. So that's awesome. I really appreciate it. You always play QBL or you play in the off-season leagues, and you play with Townsville. I'm not sure when it was, but you played in Townsville and you guys had the championship win and unbelievable year. You're MVP of that. Like that, you obviously enjoy playing in the off-season leagues like you are now and kind of tearing it up, having fun. I know a lot of players like Kadee, Sobe, Magnay have had breakout years, and next year after having unbelievable, off-season leagues. So you must really enjoy being a part of that and winning a championship back in Townsville, your kind of hometown.
Yeah, that was a great year. As I said, coming out of college, I wasn't in a good headspace, sort of as I was coming out of Adelaide that second year. But that first year back in just being home, playing for Townsville, the home club, and then going out and getting a championship and being a focal point and getting MVP of that was a pretty big deal. And just coming out and sort of proving myself and proving to myself that I can play at that level. And I think that's leading into that. I had a great year in. I had a pretty good rookie year. So I think that helped. And then obviously second year, I was sort of trying to make that jump to the NBA and didn't work out and didn't really play state league stuff. And then what happened in Adelaide happened. And then now just to get back and have a fresh start in Brisbane, playing for Red City Roar, a new team, playing with some super talented guys, Will Williams, Darryl White Jr. and Will McDowell White, who's another, fringe NBA guy. And then your mate Heath Cameron, if you remember him. So from back in the Gold Coast days, used to be an NBL guy. So playing with him, the old boy, and he's running around still able to dunk. So it's just good fun and being able to put up good numbers. We've got finals this weekend, so it'll be good to get that out of the way and hopefully get a championship.
I want to touch on Adelaide for a bit. Obviously, the second year was, it wasn't the best in a lot of ways for your whole team, but your first year, like obviously coming in, rookie of the year, great year. That must have been pretty special to be a rookie of the year. I don't know if your dad or your mum ever were rookie of the year, so you might hold that one over on top of them. But that first year, it was obviously a good one for yourself.
Yeah, obviously, just coming in, no games, just play the way you want to tell me to play the way I got to play and come out and compete. So it was just all black and white for me that first year. And Joey laid it out on the table. He said, "This is what I want you to do, and go out and do it. You'll play." And I was still finding my feet the first half of the year, and second half of the year I started rolling. So that was just confidence and just playing with a little bit of swagger that first year, and then I think I lost that a little bit my second year. But I think over here now and being in Brisbane, fresh start, and I think I'm starting to find that back.
I want to talk about your NBA stuff. Now, you did a lot of NBA workouts. I always watch your videos, and you got yourself in great shape. I'm not sure who you were working with over there, but do you find I'm always curious around the sand running, the no shoes, the running in the water. Do you find that makes a big difference? Like, how did you cope going from, normally we do on court or, running track type stuff, but the whole sand running, no shoes, the sprint work, do you find that made somewhat of a difference for you physically and body-wise?
I think the way you move, it helps a little bit. And Americans are pretty good with creative and skills trainer stuff. So I was working out with a guy called Ronnie Taylor. He's based out of Miami. He's a really good trainer, works with a lot of NBA guys. And I think just going over there and the experience of working out with guys like Hassan Whiteside, and I was playing one-on-one with Bam Adebayo in the preseason. So comes out and has a ripper year this year. So just that sort of stuff I think helped. And then, just being super locked in with all the NBA stuff and like my goals and my dreams. And then obviously I let myself go a little bit and didn't handle that well my second year in Adelaide, obviously with where my headspace was at, and being a professional, I wasn't great at that. So realistically, I've looked myself in the mirror and I understand that. And I think just that's the biggest thing this year, and the difference, the professionalism, and just being in Brisbane, guys that are, it's black and white again. It's do this, do that. I'm out here trying to handle my business, and I'm just in a good headspace. So even though it wasn't the year, didn't make the NBA off the bat, and wasn't the year I expected, I think I've learned a lot, and I could have handled myself better that second year. And it's just good to be out here with a fresh start and get rolling again. So I'm enjoying it, loving it.
I'll get to the Bullets in a minute, but obviously the NBA is still a goal. Obviously being able to train with, Will Magnay, who's I would assume pretty close to achieving that, but that's obviously still a goal for yourself to try and make the NBA get in as good a shape as possible for, potential more camps or whatever when COVID opens up, but still a dream and a goal to make the league.
Yeah, for sure. I want to be over there in the next few years, and realistically, I know I got to have a couple good years over here, either 1 or 2 good years in the NBL. And I've already been working on my body and dropped about 10 kilos since last year, and then I'm still working on trying to drop 5-10 more. So that's a big thing I'm trying to do before the start of the season. And then it's all about playing in the now. So that's the biggest thing. I'm not worried about getting back to the NBA, getting overseas, getting all that. Like this right now, I'm focused on QSL. I'm focused on handling that. Once that's out of the way, all right, now we're locked in for Brisbane, and just worry about that, because you start looking too far ahead, you get caught up. And that's what I started to do a little bit in Adelaide, and with all the stuff going on, I started to just look off into the fairyland. So it's good to be here and locked in on the now, and I'm just ready to go and excited to just get playing again.
Yeah, I love that. Let's talk about the Bullets. Obviously, a great club. Played there for many years. It's a great city. They get right behind their team. Why Brisbane? Obviously, you wanted to leave Adelaide. That's a no-brainer. But were there any other kind of teams? Or I know your family are real close with Sam McKinnon, who's a GM / a mix of things. But what kind of drew you to go to Brisbane?
Yeah, I think, like I said before, go where you wanted. And I was sort of Illawarra. I was talking to them pretty strongly as well. They were talking about linking me and Sam up, and we were definitely open to that. But just with all their leadership and membership and whatever it all, the big overhaul, they didn't really have anyone set in stone, and couldn't really be starting to sign people. As you saw, they started signing people real late. So I didn't want to wait around too long, and Brisbane came knocking like, we want you now. Just send the contract through, and it was just all. Spoke to Sammy Mack, great relationship with him. Spoke to Andre, who I've had a good relationship with when I was with the Boomers and back at the AIS, and it just felt right. And ever since I've been here, I've loved it. They've all been good to me, and being around the boys, I think I've started off leaving a pretty good impression, and just maturing a bit, and obviously growing up a little bit from Adelaide, and Sobies and all those guys that knew me in Adelaide. I think they've seen that I've grown up a little bit and all that. So I think that's just been a big thing for me this year, and just going where you wanted, and I'm loving it.
It must also be cool. We've talked about the whole follow the family around from the AS, SMU. Your dad and mum both played in Brisbane. I think your mum played for the Lady Bullets, I think they were called back in the day. So again, another family member, 3 of you guys or girls, all to play in Brisbane. That must add a little bit of flavour when it comes to the next family dinner when everyone's sitting around the table.
Yeah, no, it's pretty special when you think about it. Like same club, playing for the same club your dad did, and then Mum, I'm not sure. I probably should know, but I'm not sure if Mum played for Lady Bullets. I don't really know the names.
I think it's the Lady Bullets.
I know she was in. Yeah, I know she was in Brisbane. So, yeah, just wearing the same. I think he was number 11 as well. So wearing the same number as him. I know I've got the old. I used to wear his old Bullets, the retro jersey with the pretty cool looking jersey. I used to wear that around as a kid with 11 on the back and Froling Bullets jersey. So it's pretty cool to come full circle and come and play here and hopefully carry the name over and hopefully I'll leave being the best Froling that's played for the Bullets.
There you go. I like that. I don't know if your mum.
I reckon I'll have him in career points for Bullets after the first year. maybe not rebounds, but.
Now I have heard, I've talked to a couple of the guys and whatever, but they have said you are doing really well. Like you said, you've dropped some weight. Trainings, you're doing really well. It must be fun going against Hodgie and Will. Like you guys probably have the best, a lot of big guys, or definitely Australian big guys in the NBL. But to go against them daily and to work out against them, and I don't know what you got. I'm pretty sure you guys have a pretty free run with the whole COVID training setup, but. If you had to battle against them daily and put in work against them, that is obviously going to help you out. But from all reports, you're doing really well at practice and stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's well, from what I've been hearing, they've been happy with me, and just coming out and competing and bringing a sort of different style of play that they haven't really had here before. So going out, last 2 years I've been going up against DJ, who's obviously, if not one of the most talented, if not the most talented big man in the league, and playing against him, competing against him the whole time. It's good to sort of change that up and now go against, Hodgie, who's just huge, athletic, seals you, dunks everything around the rim. So just learn to play against those different guys. And then obviously Magnay and Tyrell, like also different players. Magnay, screen and roll, can hit the three, athletic, just different players to DJ and going out there and, it helps your game. So I think I got a lot out of competing with DJ for 2 years. And I think now having these boys around and the talent and the skill set they have will help challenge me. And I think I'll definitely help challenge them. And we've just been enjoying life and competing.
It's certainly 2 different types of athletes. DJ is definitely more offensive focused and, like you said, one of the most talented, but Hodgie and Will more defensive orientated. That's obviously probably may have helped you, offensive game a lot because, Will's not going to give you easy buckets, neither is Hodgie, where DJ maybe is on the flip side. You've got to guard him more. So that must be a good little something different to work against.
Yeah, no, it's been great. And as I said, DJ, hell of a player, but not known for his defense. So just going against these boys and it's just learning to play and it's good. So
let's get back to playing against Sam. Now, I know the NBL did a piece, I think, on it when you went and played down there, but I think you talked a bit of shit before the game. I'm not too sure, but that must be cool. One, we've talked about your family and everyone following each other, but to have your brother play in the NBL as well as alongside you and then to play against him, I think your dad and your sister were there watching that game. That must have been pretty cool to go up against him in an NBL game.
Yeah, no, that was super special. Just growing up, like since we were little kids, dreaming about playing. We'd always played together too. So we'd always play like club ball and all that together. And then to finally get to play against each other and come out on top, and I outscored him. So I was happy with that. But Andy was talking smack leading up to it. But just it's a special thing, like playing against your brother, and you look at the guys in the NBA that do it, the guys in the NBL that do it. Like it's one of those things you can't really explain. Like it's just special. It's just a special thing to do, and we really enjoyed it. And then I know Sam was talking. I think he was on the Gibbo. Was Sam on the Gibbo one-on-one podcast? He was on some interview the other day, and he was talking some smack about how he won. He's winning the one-on-one, which I want to clear up. He's not winning the one-on-one. I think I'm up 4 or 5 games at home in the off season. We were playing. And then he flew out to see his girlfriend and he never came home. So that was the real story behind that.
So I'm assuming you can't wait to play the Hawks again, whenever that may be. Bullets, so that one will be penciled in.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Obviously they've got a heck of a squad this year, and obviously Gorge being arguably the GOAT of the NBL coaching wise, and they've got a really talented group. So I'm excited to just get out and start playing again. So.
For sure. Now you played a lot of juniors with the Australian teams, tours and whatnot. I think you were part of the FIBA window, but being a part of the Boomers program is probably a goal as well for yourself.
Yeah, no, I got to make my Boomers debut with those qualifiers for the World Cup, and I went over to Kazakhstan and all that with those boys, and just it's sort of one of those things, like after you've done it once, you just want to keep doing it, and you get that from juniors, like playing for Australia. It's like there's nothing else going on in the world when you're just out there doing that, and you're out there, and it's just the feeling you get when you play for Australia, as is just like second to none. Like you can't compare it to anything else. You can't compare it to playing for money. You can't compare it to. It's just everyone's out there playing for each other, playing the right way, and it's not going to be any. There's no BS about it. It's just out there and competing. And obviously I want to be a Boomer one day, and whether that's in the near future or long-term future, see what happens and see if I can get to an Olympics. But that's definitely one of my goals.
Love it. Going back, talk to me about the Nike Hoop Summit. I was able to go to the Hoop Summit, I think, with Ben Allen back in the day, probably well before you were on the scene. But I just met unbelievable to go to the whole week. Nike, whatever. I think you played against, DeAndre Ayton and Jason Tatum might have been on the USA team.
Yeah.
How was that experience as a younger kid back then as well, going to wherever it was in the States and playing the Nike Hoop Summit?
Yeah, no, it was really good. So that actually came from, I didn't make the under-19s Australian team, which I like to think I should have been in, but some stuff happened, didn't make that. And obviously got an opportunity to play at that NBA Academy Global thing and did really well that, got MVP of that and went to the Hoop Summit from that. So playing against those guys, and I played against a bunch of them at that NBA camp as well. But, playing against the best in the world, like I'm not sure who was on that team. It was Tatum, and I think DeAndre Ayton was on my team. And then Kostas Antetokounmpo, I'm good friends with, he was on my team. Will McDowell, it was just a special thing. And like, it's one of those tournaments, like not many people get to say they've done it. Sort of like you get a window of 1 year, and you're sort of, when you're 17, 18, you sort of get 16, 17, you get that 1 year window, maybe 2 years if you're a gun, where you get to go to that camp. And not many people have made it, especially from Australia and all that sort of stuff. So it's pretty special, and I was just glad to have done it and the opportunity for it. So it was super exciting.
I'll talk about Will McDowell-White for a little bit. I was able to play a few games with him and DJ, both extremely talented players, but someone that seems like he's in second gear, but he's just not. Like, he's so crafty. Like, he's obviously having a great season with you guys up there. I think he's going back to the G League. I think
it's what it looks like. Yeah. Frog in my throat, my bad.
Just an unbelievable talent, right? That just can do everything. He's obviously lengthy, tall, athletic. He obviously played a few games here in the NBL, but just so easy to play with. Both of them they were so easy to play with. You can throw a ball, they're going to cut there. Just stuff like that just makes basketball so much fun.
Yeah, obviously he's super talented, and I think he's a guy that can play for Australia and play in the NBA for sure. And just the way, I know he cops a lot of slack from the keyboard warriors online about him being second gear and all that sort of stuff, but it looks like he's in second gear because he's just so far ahead of everyone. He's so talented, and so obviously everyone's got things to work on, but it looks like he's going second gear, but he's still going to getting 30 and 15 a game, 15 assists. And I think that's more of a compliment than a dig on him, because then when he has to really turn it on, he turns it on. And I think he's just one of the most talented players I've ever played with. I said it since under 16s, and I played under 18s, and I played state with him. Like, he'd get the ball and go coast to coast. He's one of the fastest players you can play with, and then he's got the ball on a string. The way he moves is unbelievable. So it's been great to play with him, and he sure as hell does make my life easy.
So easy, both of them. I understand Will Magnay's a better fisherman than you. I know you love fishing. You love to. I'm assuming it's a great escape. A little bit of camping, but fishing and going out and just chilling by the river banks and just catching fish.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Will, he's got me for the first fish he's ever caught. We actually went up to my grandma's beach house, and that was up north, up in the Whitsundays, and I was spear fishing. I went and speared a pretty big 70-centimeter coral trout, and the next day we were spearing again. I gave Will a little dodgy spear. I didn't tell him, but I gave him a blunt spear and a dodgy gun. and we're out snorkeling. I'm probably 30, 40 meters away from him, and he screams out to me, "Harry, I've got one." And I'm like, "What?" Look over, and he's got a massive coral trout holding it out of the water. And he didn't know what to do with it. So first fish, coral trout, speared it with a blunt spear. Pretty good story for him. But yeah, it's just good to get up, and the Bullets gave us a week to get away and just get that. I love doing that in my downtime and fishing and all that sort of stuff. So trying to start doing that down here a little bit more in Brisbane, and obviously got to meet a few people and hang out. I've been talking to Mitch Young a lot, who's big into the fishing, and it's just been good.
All right, I've got some questions. You've got to pick one or the other. Always love doing this. I'll put some funny ones in just to get it started. But pizza or pasta?
Pasta.
Chocolate or lollies?
Lollies.
Movies or TV shows?
Movies.
Favorite shoe?
Right now, the new KDs, I think 13s or 14s, whatever they are.
You have a favorite teammate?
In Brisbane?
In whoever you play with. I'm sure you play with a bunch of different players over the years. Someone you just love playing with?
Probably Tom Wilson. Probably my best mate and one of my best teammates I've ever had.
Now, I normally ask LeBron or MJ, but I'm going to throw a curveball in here. LeBron or Jokic? Nikola Jokic. Now, I understand you are him too.
Well, LeBron for all time, but Jokic for if I just had to pick.
That's definitely MJ of all time. But anyway, a 3-pointer to win a game or a breakaway dunk?
I'll go with the 3-pointer. I'll probably rim jam the dunk.
Because you can't dunk. Now, you're going to play a game of 2-on-2. You have to pick one sister, Keely or Alicia.
That's tough. And I'm with Sam. Is it first Sam and the other one, or?
Yeah, it'll be Sam. So Sam.
Well, I've got Sam. Yeah, I've got Sam covered, and I'll take Keely just because of her resume. Because she's got 2 championships. Alicia gets very aggressive though, and I think I was watching them 2 play 1-on-1 in the off season. They were bows flying around everywhere, and Keely ended up on her butt a couple of times. But purely on resume, I'll take Keely right now.
I like that. Take the champ. Now I'm going to play something. I don't know how well this is going to go, but I want first thing that comes to mind when you hear this.
PC Crawford.
Now,
PC Crawford and you.
If anyone couldn't hear that, that's Home Alone 1 or 2 when Marv, I think he falls down and he gets hit with the bricks and he just goes, hey.
Fortnite days. Every time we used to hop on.
When you hear that?
Well, it is Fortnite and you, but it also reminds me of PC because PC used to always hit me with before that, PC used to hit me with the Harry, you're alive off Dumb and Dumber or whatever. So PC always calls me and that's the first thing he says when you pick up. But then on Fortnite, every time we jump on, you just be, Harry. I was like, oh, here we go. So
I reckon one of the funniest moments last year was when we came to Adelaide. And I just hear, I don't know if it was you or TC just yelling, Harry. Like one of the
it was me, I think. When you're on the baseline, I think you were standing next to Stacks or something.
I'm just trying to warm up. Get in the mode to play a game, and all I hear is Harry just yelling out the back. That'll believe, I guarantee it. Now, I understand you're a little bit of a shit at school, and you may have got in trouble, and your dad made you dig a 1 meter by 1 meter hole, which was basically clay. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so this was actually a stitch up. I didn't actually get in that much. I mean, I was always the talkative kid in class, and one of them, it wasn't even that bad. It was a letter home saying Harry's been distracted in class, and Dad's like, it must have been the end of the ropes. He's like, nah, having a rough day. He's like, you're out here, you're digging a hole. I'm like, all right, whatever. Takes me outside. I was always a sweaty kid, like stinky kid, so I had to change out of my school uniform. He's like, get out of your school uniform, change out of my school uniform, come back outside. He gives me the pickaxe and he's like, dig a meter by meter hole. And then I'm just like, okay. So I'm like, what? I'm probably 12, 13. I just swing this pickaxe into the ground. It like ricochet. It's like concrete. It like ricochets off the ground, like just misses my head, the back of a pickaxe. And Dad was sort of sitting in the chair, like supervising. And he's just like, I think he realized like, oh, this is kind of dangerous. He started it off for me. I was out there for like after school from 3:30 till 8:30 digging this hole 5 hours straight. And Dad just sat in one of those white chairs, like just sitting there watching me the whole time and just digging. They planted a tree, an orange tree in it, called Harry's tree or Harry's orange tree or something like that. And Dad's actually moved it from our old house up to the new house right now. And he just actually not long ago, he sent me a snap of the first orange it's ever produced. So it's kicking on strong. It's been 5 years, but it's finally produced an orange or two.
Were you good at school after that?
No, it was the same. I was always getting C's in behaviour, but it is what it is.
Mate, that's all I had for you. I appreciate you taking time. I think you had some clinics and stuff or promos today, but I appreciate you jumping on and sharing all that. To know that your family have all been through the AAS and championships, mum and dad and your sisters, and it's pretty amazing your family have all been able to do that. And I think it's pretty awesome. Obviously, you're in a great space now out there in Brisbane. The mindset seems to be, it's super impressive for me to hear your mindset shift and how focused you are to just lock in, get in shape, have a great season and see what happens from there. But all the best with your QSL final. I'm sure you guys will win by about 30. Don't get in too good a shape for when you play us, but yeah, I appreciate you jumping on.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for having me. Always good chatting.